with a new presentation of the quality of health information, Jürgen, and the importance of that.
Super. You gave the keyword, the importance of information quality. So this is it, what I now shall continue with. Okay. I mentioned early this morning that this is our focus. If you describe our specific, or not unique, but our specific way to interpret shared decision making, our approach, then information quality is a very important thing in that. Telling a story that some of you might know. It's written by a Danish author. It's about an emperor and his clothes. The emperor was very obsession of fancy clothes. I think it's called, he was vain. He was, and then he engaged two dressmaker to make him new clothes, because they promised this would be ever very light. He wouldn't ever feel them on his body, such a light and good material. So he engaged them, but they were fraudsters. So they just lied, and when they sue, they just so, and when it came to trying these clothes, suddenly something special happened, because the emperor really believed in that he had gotten those nice fancy clothes, all his stuff, and everybody, all the public, and there was a big promenade, you know, a procession, when he showed his new clothes, and nobody dared to see, nobody dared to say what he or she, nobody dared to believe what they saw, that the emperor was actually naked. And is something happening? Sorry. And this is very special. A whole public collectively ignoring a very obvious thing. And it needed a little boy saying, hey, the emperor is naked, to change the situation. And this is often used for, as you might know, as a metaphor for such kind of things, when a complete population is looking one way, but looking over something very obvious. What does this have to do with our issue? I feel it's somewhat the same as with the shared decision making. Simone and I, we could tell you a lot of why reasons for barriers. You know, you had the barrier cards. We have done research, and we have read reviews. There's a lot of literature. We know many of those reasons why shared decision making isn't implemented after so many years. You know, I'm working with shared decision making since 2002, and I cannot success history, not really. So things happen, but it's not really implemented yet. And amongst all those barriers, we know this one might be the most important, that the healthcare workers are supposed to share with their patients doesn't even exist. I was blind myself. Sometimes it needs a giant. You can jump shoulders, and if you have an important message. So like Newton said, if I have seen further, it's by standing on the shoulders of a giant. My personal giant was Ingrid Mühlhauser, my mentor over many years, and she was very supporting. And in my work, we worked closely together, and she was listening to everything I had to explain about trainings I would conduct and develop and evaluate. But then she would stand up and say, but Kasper, this information doesn't exist. This. And then I found some excuses and I say, yeah, we are working with this and things like that. But she was right. And this is 20 years ago. So now I see much clearer that's the same thing with the health literacy. Now, same type of a wave of a movement for health literacy. Everybody is talking about that, measuring it, developing interventions, adjusting, defining terms and definitions for parts of health literacy, like digital or organizational health literacy. But I see nobody asking if the very information that health literate persons are capable of processing and appraising and finding, understanding this information, that if this really exists. So therefore, we started the research. I stop this definition. I don't know if you had it, the informed choice. Yes, you gave it. That is one based on relevant knowledge, consistent with your choice and the values, and implemented. And what we see and what we fear is that regardless of either the level of health literacy or the shared decision-making performance, it won't become informed choices if not the information quality is in place. So from this, starting from this idea, we started instrument development, the map info instrument to map the quality of health information. I show the cake, which is one from, because there were some co-workers in Austria, which shall represent the total of a quality concept. I come back to this one. So when we think about quality, depending on whom you ask, you might see on different goals. There might people saying the goal is to make patients satisfied. Others want to sell something or to change behavior in a certain, or things like that. But all those goals listed here are not compatible with to facilitate informed choices. But if we take this for given, facilitating informed choices, then it's clear which kinds of group of criteria are applicable here. And three types. It's the relevant information, and those criteria are mostly ethically based. So to do research on whether the patient should know the benefit and harms, like that. So what is relevant information? This is on the one hand meta information. This is also where comes the money from for the development, reference making, systematic search strategy, things like that. And on the other hand, the content. And this is in particular information about benefits and harm, and stuff like this. And the second group is the presentation methods, how the evidence is presented. Not if it is evidence-based in content, but how, if there are evidence-based presentation of the evidence-based information. And of course, those criteria are based in evidence. And I said it's three of them, three groups, because there's a third one. But this is special because it's difficult to access. It's difficult to check how an information material has been developed. If they used systematic evidence updates, were users involved in choosing the outcomes that are reported in design, or material evaluated. There's a guideline for evidence-based health information, giving recommendations for how information should be designed, look like, and be developed. And this guideline is providing 21 recommendations from 21 systematic reviews, and in addition, all those ethically based criteria that were known from before. And if I come back to the cake to show you what kind of criteria there are a lot of criteria we can assume are potentially important, but we don't know because there are no studies yet. Therefore, the cake is not complete. But then there are a couple of other criteria we know are important, but they are difficult to operationalize, maybe because they address details in the development process, information material, like a decision aid or things. And then you would need to ask the author, and it's difficult to get this information. And then there's a group of criteria easily accessible by just looking on a website made for patients, and you don't need to be a very expert. We checked if there are instruments existing of this kind, checking evidence-based criteria of patient information, and we 27 instruments, but none was satisfying. Either they were not validated, or they used not evidence-based criteria, or not only, or they were badly operationalized. Measurement was impossible. So that, therefore, we felt a need to develop a new instrument. So here I explain how we chose the criteria that are in this. By the way, you have the checklist as a printout in your folder. We used of all criteria you can think about, just those which are already evidence-based or based in ethics, and just those with a clear recommendation. For example, in the guideline, there are some which do not have a clear recommendation showing in one direction or the other. So if the recommendation isn't strong and is saying we don't know really, then we can for a quality check. And of those, we just use those criteria which are easy to check by just the patient information. And those criteria refer to definitions. This is about the target group and the information. Transparency, this is this meta information I was talking about, the content, and the presentation methods. Not included in the checklist, but in our backhead, because the checklist is designed as a screening instrument. supposed to give an estimate also of the whole quality, including these ones. It's the development methods, evaluation, user involvement. We published the protocol, and after that, the study, which comprises 6 steps of validation. I go shortly through. The first one is, of course, the systematic review I explained. The second one is the content validation done by experts in the field, which led to a revision, of course, by through the recommendations by those experts. Then a feasibility study, which was about presenting this instrument to users. Users would be nurse students and not far educated experts in quality of health information. They should apply it and use the instrument and give feedback and recall what they understood as the meaning of the items. So then we, of course, revised it again, and then did a reliability study with several loops. There were some of the items difficult to become reliable, and then we had to revise again. But in the end, we got a sufficient reliability score. And then, importantly, the quality, where we also collected data from the background, or from the development process, through the the developers, and compared a more comprehensive set of criteria with the checklist, and it was very high. In addition, we conducted a divergent validity to show that our instrument is measuring something different than an existing instrument, which goes in the same direction but isn't evidence-based the same way. Okay, the map info is applicable on each type of decision, as information addressing treatment problems or diagnostic problems or health promotion, rehabilitation, prevention, can be applied by interested person. You don't need training. And just by, you don't need to do research and find background lit papers. You take what you find, and this is comfortable. And it exists now, comprising of about 10 pages and in different languages, and is published with a toolkit, which is very feasible to administer data and also calculate and develop a diagram, which we decided shall look like this, because the cake is not complete, you know, and showing parts where criteria are met, complied with, and where it is white or partly white, they are not met. And here's an example from Norwegian information diagnostic, and you see there's a little green and a lot of white, and this is indicating bad quality. Here you have to remember that these criteria are meant to be standard criteria, minimum standard criteria. With regard to, we cannot say that full score, everything green, would mean a good information, but what we can say is that if you not comply with single criteria here, it might already be a barrier to making informed choices. Would expect 100% compliance with those criteria as a minimum standard. At this point, here's the two At this point, I want to, you have an idea?
Yeah.
I want to invite you to a little experiment. And this would be to choose a website, you know, maybe one you know, or maybe one you would like to, and to check. And you try to apply those criteria.
So we
roughly. It's 19 criteria, and we cannot spend 2 hours, which you would need for the first going through, but maybe we say a quarter of an hour.
Yes, and that sounds good.
To get an idea how this works, and to get an idea what you maybe have overseen so far.
So when I talked to some of the participants of the earlier courses here, I talked to them, where do you find information? So either you're a healthcare professional here, doctors or nurses, what kind of information do you provide to your patients? Maybe you want to evaluate that. Or maybe your mom just received a breast cancer diagnosis and you would like to go on the Cancer Society's webpage and look at the information. Or so you assess something that makes sense to you, okay? So from your department, or
yeah, you can do it together, so 2 and 2. So if you want
2 and 2 or 4 and 4, so you can. Yes, you can also do it alone if you want. Is it clear? We will go around if somebody has questions.
So I think we should relieve you. We are impressed that you really worked with this. We know this is a long day. It's much information and much activity, and you should read the map in SDM, and now you should find yourself the map info manual and read this, and it's so much. For us, it's all that is familiar. We know it's new for you, and we appreciate that you even try, and some have rated nearly full information. This is really good. But you can take those materials home and use it further on. So maybe you have had enough of a beginning to have a feeling what it means. I just said to one of your colleagues that the whole thing is developed from the patient's perspective. We could be much more creative. We could say, yes, here you have 4 options, and in one option the presentation of benefit and harms is quite good. So we appreciate the attempt. But look, this wouldn't be a benefit for the patient. The patient needs it either for all options, or it doesn't matter. So therefore we are so rigorous. And we are not measuring the competence of the developer, but the capability of making informed decisions. Now our results with the third publication, which is on the way, the study. It's a survey, and roughly just a few minutes, if you want. We did it in Norway, and we conducted. We asked, as you might assume, whether, and this is already a provoking title, whether health literate people in Norway are able to make informed choices based on what they find in the internet. Thereby, those surveys do not touch the health literacy, but as health literacy has the information word included, we can say if the information is not there, then we have to challenge the use of being. Okay, we conducted 64 cross-sectional studies. And this is in total nearly 2,000 patient information materials / websites. digital, and they were allocated in 16 health domains. We chose those relevant for public health nurses. This is because of my affiliation in the Oslo Met in Norway. The way I identified those information was by structured Google searches. You know, Google, we cannot search systematically via Google, but we had to go the users go and to document and to try out. And we are pretty sure that we found most of them for each of the problems, but we cannot be sure whether all. And then we coded, maybe this works like you now know. And our, oh, here's the Norwegian word, funnene. This is results. We found this. First, use the information, then I give you the numbers. It's not much better than the former one I showed. You remember the green parts are parts where criteria are complied with, while the white ones, the ones are criteria which were not met. Not enough green, or with other words, of all those criteria, 22% criteria average over all those 2,000 materials, 22% of the criteria of the standard were met. And if you turn this means 78% of criteria weren't met. With secondary analysis, we try to find out, is this maybe better depending on, or better or worse, depending on the kind of a problem. We have diagnostic problems or health promoting or preventive treatment. No difference. And then the target group, because we had those parents of those small born toddlers and children and youth, also adolescents, and we group problems and the sites after the target group, no difference. And then we checked the providers, and there we really expected to find significant quality differences. You know, we had everything we could find. We had the commercials, we had bloggers and influencers, we had newspapers, we had the official authorities and the hospitals and non-profit organizations and companies. Apart from a small difference, the scientific institutions, the Norwegian Institute of Public Health, they are really good in information. They had a slightly better quality, and this was 2,000 cases. But apart from this, we didn't find differences. Listen, the authorities, we have a health platform in Norway where all those information, everybody is proud of this national health platform with information on everything. It's not better than the commercial things. And this was really dramatic, and is, because those websites are there. The inter-rater reliability was good. And to discuss this, what does this mean? Because you can be self-critical and can say, okay, maybe it was not enough websites, and this I adapt. And the next is whether the criteria were relevant. If there are other criteria we should check. I don't think so. not have. So we have used the criteria, the existing criteria, and we would be happy with more. But and the guideline is under update, and it will come new criteria, and of course we will also update the map info. But for now, it's what we have, and therefore we have to say it's really difficult or not possible to do informed choices based on these materials. And then the health literacy isn't so whether or not you are health literate does not matter. And then we have some discussions. We are prepared for now. It's not published in the journal. We had some presentations, but I'm prepared for the discussion that health professionals have the job and the task to compensate for not sufficient information. They would inform about things we not find in the material. But this, I think, is a hope that is not realistic, because as far as I see, for example, here the public health nurses would use the same sources or the guideline behind for public health nursing, but it's this. So it's I do not expect the counseling of these nurses to be better than those information results. Another thing is because there are so many people measuring currently, and they were published in Norway, there and many other countries, national reports about the health literacy. And they say that 30% of people do not have enough health literacy and things like that. But I have looked on the items and how they measure health literacy. And those items have asked for the information. Do you understand the information lying out there, or are you good in searching up health information for issues you are interested in, and things like that? And think about what the information doesn't exist. Then there are different reasons for not finding or not understanding and things like that. So if I answer honestly and say I'm completely desperate, I don't find and do not understand, then it's maybe I'm not health literate. So I challenge also our research. I challenge the report on health literacy. Think about that also in your national reports. Yeah, this is it. There's now we have a little break. I know I'm a little tired, and I start to talk German with you. So we need a little break. You need a little break, but there's something very interesting after the break. Simone will explain about the Norwegian way, also the status of implementation of shared decision making, and she's in the position and the best position to do this. So this is going to be exciting, and I hope you stay. She is finished.
Okay, but first break. So up and jump a little bit to try to wake up.
And coffee.